Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm your host, Amanda Lamb. In today's deep dive conversation with WRAL Investigates reporter Cullen Browder, we're talking about a staggering rate hike on the way for Duke Energy Progress and Duke Energy Carolina's customers. Cullen, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
So Duke is requesting a 19% increase in the next 3 years, and the North Carolina Utilities Commission estimates rates could double in 6 years. So what's going on here?
So there's a rate hearing that just finished for the next 3 years. It's something we've reported on. Again, the 19% phased in over the next 3 years. And in the course of the hearings, Duke started talking about their capital improvements, $4 billion in the next 3 years, but also another $5 billion that they plan to make improvements to the system because they've got to turn to cleaner energy sources, which is part of the law that they have to follow. They're also trying to meet demand, growing demand. Security of the grid, we've reported on, the problems in Moore County back in December, and reliability of the grid. Of course, we had the rolling blackouts in December as well. So they're trying to meet all those demands, and this is a publicly traded company. They have stockholders, and they make billions of dollars a year. So all those are coming into play in terms of our rates.
And this was all discussed at the Utilities Commission hearing, not a thing that most members of the public attend. So it's really important for us to report what comes out of that.
Incredibly complicated acronyms all over the place: DEP, DEC, MYRP, non-MYRP. It's really, really hard to follow. But fortunately, there are attorneys that are sitting there, consumer advocates who are listening, the public staff of the Utilities Commission. They're there to sort of look through what Duke Energy is saying. So in the midst of days and days and hours of hearings, information came out about these capital improvements that Duke will make. Well, the public staff started doing the math. So, okay, well, if you're really going to do this, then within 6 years, we estimate our rates will double. So consider, what are you paying right now per month for your electric bill? $140, $130, I think, is an average number we hear about. In 6 years, that will double according to the public staff.
So to put this in layman's terms, is Duke saying that if we don't make this investment, we can't guarantee the most reliable service?
In a sense, they're saying that. They won't say it just flat out like that. They're saying, look, we have a responsibility to make this grid as resilient, reliable as possible. We're being told we've got to make the grid more secure so we can protect against potential attacks. We've got to make it resilient against weather, climate change. And at the same time, they've got to reach carbon zero by 2050. And to do that, they've got to make huge investments to transition from fossil fuels to cleaner energy sources. And they contend to do that, there is a huge capital outlay that they say will put us in a great position, but there's a cost. And that cost is going to be shouldered by ratepayers.
Understandable. Well, we will be back after the break with more from WRAL's Cullen Browder about how this rate hike stacks up against other providers. Welcome back to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm talking with WRAL's Cullen Browder about big rate hikes on the way for Duke Energy customers. So are these reasonable hikes is the big question. Let's reset here for a second by explaining to our listeners, how many energy customers are we talking about, and where are they located?
So Duke Energy Carolinas and Duke Energy Progress cover different portions of North Carolina. If you combine North and South Carolina, they've got about 4.5 million customers, both commercial and residential. So they have a lot, and that's just our part of the grid. They also have Ohio, South Carolina, Indiana, and Florida. So what they're proposing before the Utilities Commission is just for North Carolina. And so this is going to impact they have the vast majority of customers here in North Carolina. If you look at Duke Energy Carolinas in progress compared to the rest of the country, and you're talking about 1,300 utilities essentially, we actually fare quite well in terms of affordability, in the 800s in terms of most expensive out of 1,300. Really some of the cheaper rates, comparatively speaking. If we go down this road,
that's going to change.
That will change. Now, that's considering if these other utilities don't raise their rates as well, but we would go from one of the cheaper to one of the most expensive.
Is that something that people are aware of? Are they talking about this? I mean, I know you spoke with Jessica Shipley with the Regulatory Assistance Project. What is she saying in terms of how this is going to impact customers?
Well, the public staff called this shocking, because we're talking about, essentially rolling out 19% in rate hikes over the next 3 years. But if you add it all up over the next 6, doubling our rates. That's a shocking number, and that came from the Utilities Commission public staff. Jessica Shipley, she provides technical expertise to commissions all across the state. She doesn't really get into as much of the consumer advocacy, but she said that's clearly a significant impact for ratepayers. They're going to have to sort that through, plan for it. Now, one thing she says in terms of our process, with this process, that the Utilities Commission has requirements, performance metrics that Duke Energy has to meet. And consumers can look at that. So they can look at what is Duke Energy doing? Are they keeping their promises? And they can track that. At the same time, she says this process that we have is a little bit different from other states because Duke Energy essentially says, this is what we forecast. This is what we're planning. This is what we're seeing. And then their rates are based on their own predictions. So she calls it, they get a blank check almost to meet their own forecast. So they're really guiding the ship. The Utilities Commission holds them to a standard and they will sort through all this. But she calls it Duke Energy essentially getting a blank check.
And are they, the Utilities Commission has to approve the rate hike,
correct.
However.
And even the current, the 3-year period coming has not even been approved yet. So we talk about 19%. That's what their request is. So, yeah, we need to make that clear. And again, this doubling of the rates, that's the estimate from the Utilities Commission public staff if Duke gets everything they want. Obviously, there's a process, so we'll see whether or not they're able to get that or not.
Yeah, and can we put this into figures? I mean, what kinds of increases can people expect to see?
Well, the average residential rate, and again, everyone is just, check your bill. But if you're paying $130, $140, $200 per month right now, just plan on, according to the public staff, if Duke gets everything they want, doubling that.
Wow. And I'm guessing that in terms of being a member of the public who is a customer of Duke, not a whole lot anybody can do to change this.
Right. They can, testify at the public hearings that are to come. This most recent set of hearings is wrapped up, and the Utilities Commission will make decisions for the rate hikes to go into effect in October, and they'll be phased in. But consider the people who can least afford it will be the most impacted, no question about it. But the public staff also said, look, if we're doubling rates, whether you're low income, whether you're medium income, it's going to impact everyone. So
sure.
No matter where you are in terms of socioeconomics, it's going to have a huge impact.
And October, you think the first ones will take effect?
That's for the next 3-year cycle. And again, we've parsed through a good bit of that. What was unusual about what came out of the hearings was this extra $5 billion in capital outlay that they're forecasting for the next cycle. And that's where the doubling comes out. And that's what is really new in terms of our reporting.
It'll be interesting, I think, to see if nonprofits step up, too, to help some people with energy bills when these get, just too high for a lot of people.
And Duke Energy contends, look, we're going to try and help people who need the most help.
Well, let's hope that they follow through with that.
Yes.
So thank you so much for breaking this down for us. I know that we here at WRAL will continue to follow this situation. And thank you for listening to the WRAL Daily Download and making us part of your morning routine. If you like what you're hearing, please rate us on Apple Podcasts or on whatever podcast app you use. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. It's a daily email waiting in your inbox every morning with Triangle news events and headlines to get you ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.